Hi everyone, this has to be the best sponsorship video I've ever done. It's Brian Sims coming back. He's a sponsorship finder, and we're talking about the real things here. How to get sponsorship, how to attract the attention of companies, how to get in front of companies. You are going to love this. Brian Sims, welcome back to the Race Driver Coach Show. You are the first person that we've had come back. You're the first returnee, which is quite nice after hundreds of episodes.
Well, you know what they say in the musicals: if you come back to have bread rolls thrown at you, you've made it.
Exactly.
Anyway, it's good to be here and good to meet you again, as always, Enzo.
Thanks, my man. Thank you. As you know, the people that watch this, the community, should we say, sponsorship is the biggest pain. And we talk about just the pains and the things that get in the way of a career of a race driver. And I'm a personal performance coach, as you know, so most of it's on the mental side for me, but you can't ignore sponsorship and the skills you need as a driver to even go into that area, the entrepreneurship skills. So I've bled into that area, which is why I love to speak to the real experts like yourself to give people just some answers, because when you are a kid at home or a person at home wanting to race, but you're talking hundreds of thousands or tens, hundreds of thousands or millions to race, most people haven't got access to that kind of cash. So straight away they look towards sponsorship, but they haven't got a clue what that means. And they go around looking for the donation kind of angle, which doesn't wash well with companies, of course. So they get a bit lost. So today's theme is really, cold calling, how to get in front of a company and the first steps as well. So if we can cover that, then it will be an amazing episode.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start off with a free tip right at the very, very beginning. Don't go out and try and sell sponsorship.
Boom.
Now, don't switch off your recording or anything at the moment. I'm not completely mad when I say that. What I mean is, selling sponsorship is a tough business. I've been in this business 45 years, and you know, I've had my successes, I've had my failures, but one thing I have gained is a huge amount of experience. And the problem is, when you go out there with the mindset that you've got to sell sponsorship to go and achieve your dream of racing or achieve your dream of going up a category or whatever it is, if you stop thinking I'm out there to sell sponsorship and instead think I want to go and talk to some companies that I can help in a genuine way, maybe sell more products, sell more services, increase their market share, whatever it is they might be in the business of doing, immediately you're trying to help people, not try and sell something. Selling is a horrible word in a way, because you think of the man who comes around to the house, knocks on the door and said, I've got these sponges I want to sell. What do you think? Would you like to buy some? Or you get a phone call at 5 o'clock in the evening. You're just sitting down after a hard day's work and the phone goes and somebody says, how are you today? And you immediately know it's a salesperson trying to sell you something.
Yeah.
So that's a tip. Let's start looking at ways that you can genuinely help a business. It might be your local greengrocer. It might be your local building merchant. It might be your local petrol station. But if you can help them, there's usually a conversation to be had.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just looking around my room now, this person wants to sell more of them. This gym membership wants to sell more of them. This bloody travel funnel, which I put my protein shake and stuff in when I'm on the road, wants to sell more of them. And it's just really, you're a marketing company, aren't you? And you're trying to help a company grow or overcome the challenges they've got. I mean, some companies might say we need some kind of incentives for clients or for our staff, or even team building. It's obviously, you've got to go into a company and find out what they actually need first, right? Individually.
Yeah. Think about it this way. You want to buy a new phone, a new mobile phone, the latest thing that you want to be able to use it for doing Zoom meetings. You want to be able to do it for music, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And you walk into a shop and the person said, I've got just the phone for you, before you've even opened your mouth. And he said it's on special price. What are your first thoughts?
He's on commission. He's not listening to what I want. What's he really after? Basically, it's on defense, my mind, straight away.
Yeah. And how can he possibly know what I want? He hasn't asked me.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the old story. And I'm going to give you a little case study on this one now. A guy told me this is true. One of these big warehouse secondhand car companies that have been going for years in an old aircraft hangar or whatever, with about 250 cars in there. The salesman one day was walking around and a little old lady walks into the showroom, and the salesman went up to her and said, I've got just the car for you, and took her across and showed her a smart car.
Yeah.
And she said, I don't want one of those little things. She was in her 80s, this lady, lovely looking, looked like Miss Marple in the Miss Marple television programs. You know the sort, Enzo. I mean, yeah. So he said, oh, I thought that would be perfect for you. Nice little two-seater car to go shopping in. No. So he said, you want to go out and maybe go camping and, in a camper type van? No, I don't like that either. He took her up to another one, which was a little sports car, convertible. You want to get the sun in your face and the wind in your hair? No. He said, well, what do you want? And she pointed to a beautiful Porsche Carrera sitting in the corner. She said, how much is that? And he said, probably more than you could afford. Silly thing to say. But she said, that's what I want. And he said, what do you want that for? And she said, well, my husband has always wanted a Porsche. And last week we had a big lottery win. And I said, I'm going to give my husband, we've been together for 50 years, I'm going to buy him his dream. And he said, oh, why didn't you tell me that? And she said, what do you think those 3 magic words were?
You didn't ask?
You didn't ask.
Yeah.
And that is actually a true story.
Yeah.
So the thing is, the first thing is you've got to have the right mindset. So if you're going out looking to meet companies and help to solve problems, you are a problem solver, and that's much nicer than being a salesperson.
Yeah.
Secondly, you've got to have a product that is able to meet the needs of the company you're going to, whether it's a shop, a builder's merchant, whatever it is. You're not going to know that at the beginning until you've had a meeting with them, what they do need. But the more features, the more capabilities that your promotion product, let's call it your sponsorship property, has, the better the chance you have of solving problems. Now, it probably won't surprise many of you to know that the big 3 capabilities that people sell sponsorship on or try to are brand awareness, hospitality, and PR. In my experience, only 10% of all the deals I've done over my 45 years or in the business have ever been on those 3 bases. Everybody's got a different reason for wanting or for needing to get into sponsorship and get into sport and marketing. So create a capable a product that has a lot of capabilities. It's no good just having those 3 any more than if you went to a restaurant and you had soup, fish and chips, and an ice cream, and you didn't happen to like any of those. What do? You walk out and go to a restaurant where they've got a nice choice and you can choose and pick whatever you want. So that's really very, very important. Sit down and make a list of every possible thing in the business world that your sponsorship can offer a company. As you said, Enzo, it might be the platform for a sales incentive program, helping salespeople in a company sell more products. It might be product sampling. If you're in the food business, most people want people to try their product. Nice drink, nice food, nice pies, nice chocolates, whatever it is. Oh yeah, I'll have some of those. Yep. If you can provide them with those sort of opportunities to sample products at a race meeting or whatever, those are the sort of issues you've got to or sort of opportunities you've got to create. So get down and get your friends together, sit down and get ideally a whiteboard and write down everything that you can think of. Free parking, Mr. Managing Director, when you come to watch me race at Brands Hatch. We've got to organize the parking space for you.
Yep.
Little things like that.
It is, and it's actually, you just reminded me of something there, that even thinking bigger, a lot of people say if you're 19 years old, you wouldn't even know where to start with this. You're like, geez, this is like old person stuff. I can't walk into a boardroom and sell this. So one thing of me says, right, you've got to partner with somebody who can do this, or work with somebody who can actually have the entrepreneur skills and think outside the box. Like, okay, if you've got this brand, even bigger than just offering it to spectators, how about I go to Silverstone or somewhere and we do a deal where we supply the circuit with the food they need, or we stock their shelves with this chocolate bar. Yeah. So it's in the cafe, the diner all year, and it becomes a client. I've just sorted that client out for this company. I get the kickback from that, the commission. I can spend that on whatever I want on racing. So it's really being a business person. And this is the struggle. It's like, if I'm really good at a lap time, I know I am because I've proven it. I've done a year's worth of racing already. This is out of my area. I wouldn't even know where to start. So I think it's having somebody, not necessarily a manager that you have to pay 40, 50K for a year, but having somebody just to help me put something together and help me sell it, or just think outside the box, brainstorm, like you say. So yeah, you don't feel like you're on your own. I'm trying to say, try and find somebody, uncle or whoever.
Well, an example of this, during lockdown, obviously I couldn't train people or help them from a physical point of view. And I started doing online mentoring. Yeah. And a classic example, a 22-year-old racing driver from Malibu, California, contacted me. Mm-hmm. And he said, Brian, I want to go into this category and so forth. And I haven't got a clue how to get meetings. Yeah. And I worked with him over about 6 or 7 1-hour sessions. Yep. And it ended up with him sitting in front of the head of partnerships for one of the biggest corporations in America, one of the biggest retail corporations. Mm-hmm. And I was invited to sit in on that meeting as well.
How did you do that? Just to gloss over, I know you can't really run us through all the sessions, but what was the structure of that training? Because I think, and this isn't a sales video, everyone, by the way, but I think if I was starting again, I would definitely come to you for mentoring and just find out how to do it. Yeah. Have somebody holding your hand, and it would have been amazing. Better than me going up to the library, looking through the Hollis sponsorship book and physically writing a letter to each company, which is what I was doing. I spent years doing that with zero return on investment. So what's the kind of, what do you teach? If I was to come to you now, what would you teach me? Just as a...
Well, it varies. I mean, the young guy from America wanted to get into meetings, and I went through and talked about some of the opportunities that I'd taken when I first started racing. I went back, for example, to my very first ever sponsorship deal. Yeah. Now, it probably seems crazy to most people, but I did that sponsorship deal before I'd ever sat in a race car on a track.
Amazing.
And that was a cold call. Mm. In other words, I was driving through Maidstone one day. I was looking out, going off to a meeting somewhere. I can't remember what it was with the job I was doing. And I spotted a big sign at the side of the road about a new nightclub that was opening in Maidstone. Mm-hmm. And they were going to open it with a businessman's lunch that was on a certain date. And I thought, opportunity, how can I work and how can that help me? Because I wanted to go Formula Ford racing, but I couldn't afford a car. And what I did was to do a little bit of research in the club. I phoned 1 or 2 people who knew about it. And they said, no, they're going to be doing business lunches. They're going to do membership. They're going to have all sorts of things. And I said, well, I suppose the thing that's going to help the most is selling subscriptions to the club. Yep. And so I found and worked out a ploy to be able to meet the owner of the club and show him by a practical demonstration, which if any of you are interested, you can read my book. It's full of how to take opportunities, spot opportunities and make them happen. And
Something about the race car was actually there, right? I remember.
yeah, I stuck the race car on a trailer in the middle of the car park so that the owner of the place came out swearing like mad because he said, we've got a business lunch on today. And I said, well, look at all the people going over and looking at that race car. And I said, can
Oh
you imagine
man.
if that race car were in the Mall in Maidstone on a Saturday morning with the promotional person selling memberships, and then at the racetrack on the Sunday at Brands Hatch. And I got a sponsorship deal. There's a little bit more out of it to involve.
But crikey, that takes balls. That's kind of the story you read about when you look at a Richard Branson, how far they go. Because at the end of the day, you spotted an opportunity, and this is big. This would have gone over my head. I wouldn't have seen this as a kid. But you see a new company opening up. They are virtually saying, we need to get this word out. We're spending money on advertising and getting this dinner, this breakfast that they're doing. We are spending money because we need to get attention. Yeah. And people see these every day, but just ignore it. And then they do a cold call to someone who's not interested, like the old lady walking into that car sales room. But it's a case of you saw it, opportunity, they want attention, I can provide that. It's a win-win. Yeah. And I think that spotting that and then having the confidence to go and execute as well.
And at the other extreme, Enzo, for those who are looking at watching this and thinking, well, I'm beyond that, I've got a little bit further up the line. I applied a very similar technique to a company in America when I was working as an agent to get Formula One sponsorship.
Yeah.
And that approach, very similar approach, got me a £15 million deal, the first deal ever that brought FedEx into Formula One.
Wow, there you go.
And I walked out of that deal, and I'll never forget, I was in Memphis at the head office of FedEx, world headquarters, and I walked out, not literally with a check in my hand, but almost. And I thought back to that first sponsorship deal that I'd done. And I thought, you know something? There was nothing different. The concept was exactly the same. Yeah. I helped FedEx show how they could increase their market share of the logistics business within worldwide through a program with the Benetton Formula One team.
And that was like kind of on the edge of B2B, right?
Yeah, it was sort of B2B. And remember, it was at a time when tobacco was coming to an end, and we were looking for those big corporates who could afford to come in as a title sponsor of a Formula One team.
Yeah.
The thing I think that's very important with all of this, you've got to go out with that mindset that you've got to ask more questions than telling people what they need. I want to give you another little example. A small to medium-sized business. Imagine what it's like, a typical day in these tough times that we're in now. A little company, 20, 30 employees, a furniture maker, they make flat pack furniture, and they're in your local town. What goes through the mind of the man who owns that on a daily basis? Well, what I do with my mentoring, I say, imagine this day. It's Monday morning. You started this business about 15 years ago. You and your wife have built it up. You've got a very nice little number there, selling lots of flat pack furniture. And suddenly financial crisis, COVID, whatever it is, hits and sales start going down.
Yeah.
It's Monday morning. You look out the window, it's pouring with rain. Run out to the car to go in to start work, and the car's got a flat tire. So you have to walk to the station, you get soaking wet. You arrive at the office, there's an envelope on your desk. Your PA, who's been with you for years and she's your rock, she's just handing in her notice. Her husband's going to live in America and she's going with him.
Yeah.
Then you look at the sales figure report for the month that has just come in from your sales manager. Down again, third month in a row, the sales are down.
Mm-hmm.
And then an email arrives. My name is Timothy Thomas, and I'm racing a Formula Ford at Brands Hatch each weekend, and I've won 2 races, and I set the fastest lap last week. your company is in the business of selling flat pack furniture. Would you like to sponsor my team and advertise your products? In return, I'll give you 4 tickets to come and watch me race at Brands. And can you imagine the guy? He just bangs his head on the desk and thinks, that's all I need. Imagine instead this email arrived. My name's Timothy Thomas, Mr. Santo, the correct name of the managing director of the company. I've been looking at your very, very powerful website, and I see that you cover the whole of Great Britain in terms of sales representation, and you have a lot of salespeople working for you. I guess it must be very difficult trying to hit targets at this time, and you're looking for ways of incentivizing your salespeople. I've come up with an idea that might work for you based on the proven popularity of motorsport. And I'm wondering whether we could have half an hour together to listen to some of the problems and see if we can find a way that might help you sell more products.
Oh, you're listening to his pain. You're seeing the pain and you're listening to it. And I think on the human side, if you're a CEO, you're a firefighter, really. You have all these problems like your, secretary or whoever you says leaving, and the sales are down. You're being sued left, right, and centre because someone did something. The van's broken down. All this. You've got all these problems. It's a human being that's having to deal with this. Also, his relationship's failing. The kid's just done something as well at home, and they've never got anybody to listen to them. And as like a performance coach, they come to people like me to obviously overcome these things, or just to get some kind of reset so they can be at their better selves again. You've got to think that when you have an email that's actually listening to your problem and giving you a kind of solution, just to talk about it over a coffee.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you just increase your chances of getting a reply massively. Someone's hearing my pain. Oh, at last, I'm not on my own. And it's just, and there's no obligation either.
And
so it's amazing.
Recently, I mentioned the young lad in America. And he actually started to think a different way about approaching sponsorship. Mm-hmm. And he started to, for example, one of the things he came up with, he said, Brian, I remembered you'd said how many business emails a manager in a big corporation will get every day.
Yeah.
And what could I do to be different? And he remembered a little tale I told as to how I used to send things by courier, because if it's sent by courier, okay, it costs you a few bob, but number one, it will get to the person, because if you got their name correct and everything else, he has to sign for it, or the secretary has to sign for it.
Yeah.
It jumps straight out, and people are nosy. People are inquisitive. And if a packet arrives in there, nicely presented, one in particular that somebody did to me, I spent a year in the world of Premier Rugby. I was head of marketing for Bath Rugby. And a Kit Kat arrived in a packet by courier, and a letter. It said, Mr. Sims, as a busy executive of Bath Rugby, I'm sure you don't get a great deal of time to study and look at all your emails.
Yeah.
We thought you might like to take a break and have a Kit Kat and a coffee, and let us tell you why we should come. We might be able to help you develop that fantastic brand that is Bath Rugby even further.
Man, that's a genius move.
And it worked. It grabbed my attention because I had about 150 emails in front of me, and then the courier arrives and this packet's put in front.
Oh man, that's absolutely perfect.
You've got to be innovative.
You have, and actually, when I used to work for a driver program where it was a little bit like Red Bull, where we paid for drivers. So it was the ultimate job, and I just picked a driver and we paid for them. And Grosjean, Ocon, people like this went through that system. And we also needed sponsorship. There were big investors that owned it, but they were thinking, okay, we're putting all this money into racing. I think we need some help now, because no matter how there were, one of them was the original investor of Skype. So these were big hitters, but even they were like, we've got to have a little bit of return on what we're putting in. So they started to look for sponsorship. I wasn't any part of this. I just saw it going on. And they used to send this lovely case. It was very high end. And you'd open it up and it had this huge diamond in the middle. Obviously not a real one, but it looked real. And I can't remember the slogan, but it was just for that reason. And recently, this year, I saw what Formula One teams do. And they send a big package and you open it up and it looks like a stage, and it's got a video playing on the back. It's like a little theater, a box theater in front of you with a helmet there and all this, and it's really like a presentation in a way, but you cannot ignore it. So obviously people are doing this, but not on a small level. If you were to do this on the lower end SMBs and mid-sized companies and stuff, then oh my God, it is different because they're inundated and they're short-staffed usually.
Yeah.
So it's perfect.
The other message I want to get across, really, to answer this question, to make it easier, you are not going to walk into a company, you're not going to phone a company, you're not going to send a proposal, and I want to have a quick word about that in a minute, to a company and get a sponsorship deal. You get sponsorship deals by sitting face to face with somebody, having a conversation, and creating a bespoke sponsorship. What do I mean by bespoke? Well, the same way that with clothing, you can have two things. You can go and buy off the peg in a shop, a suit, a jacket, or you can have it made for you.
Yeah.
In terms of appearance, invariably, the one that's made for you will always look better. It's the same with sponsorship. The best sponsorships are those that have been built on what the person on the other side of the desk has told you are important factors for him and his company.
Told you, yeah.
I remember,
no difference to Facebook, by the way. You only get on your feed stuff that you've either searched for or clicked on in the past. So they know, I mean, you just follow the Facebook or any social media algorithm. It is, this person is interested in this, this, and this, and this. They've liked this, they've said this, they've even searched for this on the internet. Let's show them an advert for that. It's no different to that. It's already going on, but we just have to make sure that drivers and people understand this.
Yeah. I'll never forget the first time I went to Gillette at their head office, and I met their European marketing director, and he said to me, Brian, every year, all the Formula One teams come knocking on our door, not literally, but we're approached by virtually every Formula One team.
Yeah.
And every year we send them all away saying, no, not interested. And he said, very few of them really actually take on board why we're not interested. And it's because we don't need the one thing that they've given us or are offering us. They're offering us cars painted with Gillette all down the side. We don't need to spend money on brand awareness. We get all the brand awareness we want to.
Yep.
And I sat down with them and I found out what they did want, went away, came up with an idea of how we could, in an innovative way, deliver that, and walked away with a $5 million sponsorship deal from Gillette.
Mate, that's perfect. I think this is leading up to how we do it. I think people are getting an idea now. It's be a consultant, go in there, you're a growth consultant, you happen to use sport to do that for companies. You can even show proof of how this works. You've got so much data now. But you listen to it, and in F1, they're very complacent. We went there recently, 2 years ago, I think, with I think it was $2 million, pounds, dollars, or euro, I can't remember, from a company, and we wanted to get them on an F1 car. I was just sitting I made the intro, so I was just sitting in on the conversation, but they said, no, the minimum is 4 mil. You don't get on the car for less than 4 mil. And that was kind of the end of the conversation. It's like, okay, well, fair enough. We'll stay with the team we're with because they were with a team that was at the back of the grid. And then 5 days later, we got a call from the principal about that 2 mil. I think we can do something. It's like, guys, you are on your knees right now. You're on your ass as a sport. You need the money in. So they are a bit bullshit and just think, we're F1, we're going to put this price tag on and give you a sticker this big, and they've got away with it for so long.
Yeah,
so
this is something that and Enzo, you are so right in what you say. I've been appalled over the years. I have a pretty good track record in sponsorship. I've done over £100 million worth of sponsorship deals in my career.
Yeah, brilliant.
And I've contacted many of the Formula One teams fairly recently, and I said, look, I think I can help you. No. What would you be able to do? You're living in the past. We're in this age of social media. And I said, that is the problem. I said, the one thing that has not changed since that first deal I did with Victoria's nightclub in Maidstone is Yes, you've got internet. Yes, you've got social media. Yes, you've got Zoom. Yes, you've got all these other wonderful things. They are ways of doing business.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the thing that has never changed from my first ever sponsorship deal to today is a company wants to sell more products or more services in a measurable, sustainable way. And if you can help them do that, there's a conversation to be had. And I got told to go away.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's like the fitness, we've got all these fitness apps now that track everything, but at the end of the day, it's still eat well and get exercise. It hasn't changed.
Yeah.
It's all the things around it. And that's brilliant, but let's just have the foundation of helping companies grow. And then all the fluff on top can be, how it's delivered, fine. That's fine, but it doesn't change. So just to bring it back, I'm a kid in my room and I want to go racing. What would you say is the first thing I do, or what shall I do? I haven't got a clue if I was in that position.
Well, the first thing you've got to do is to be realistic. Mm-hmm. You're not going to phone the headquarters of Coca-Cola in America and persuade them to sponsor you in your first Ginetta race at Brands Hatch, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So you have to do quite a lot of research and build into your research certain factors. Geographical. Will I be able to, if that company said, right, we're interested, come and see us, could I afford to get on a train or flight to go to Manchester to see them in their head office? Mm-hmm. So you have to be realistic. And the chances are you're going to start off within a 15-mile radius of your home.
Yeah.
Make a list of companies that operate in that sector that you could think would have some connection with or benefit from sports sponsorship. Your local florist, for example, you would think, okay, they're probably not really going to go into motor racing. They can't, although I could come up, I'll tell you now, I could come up with some very innovative ways why your florist should come into motor racing. But being realistic, they're not. But if you go to your local builder's merchant and you walk into that builder's merchant and you look at how many different brands they sell across the counter in their yard, and then think, they've got 25, 30, 35 different companies they're operating with. They've got to attract people in there to buy those products. What if they were to bring those people together and all together sponsor a motor racing program that provides and creates the target of footfall through the store, competitions, opportunities, promotions, and the like.
Yeah.
That's how Target stores, Kmart stores in America operate. Those sponsorships operated for over 20 years. It shows you how successful they were by working on the basis of we need to get more people through our stores to look at different products that are sold through us, whether it's a Kellogg's cornflake packet, whether it's a Black & Decker drill, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. The more people can get in there, the more likely they are to spend money. So it's in everybody's benefit, everybody's idea, interest.
So the on the IndyCar it was Target, wasn't it?
Well, no, Kmart.
Kmart, and they had all the different suppliers.
Dirt Devil.
Devil, yeah.
It works in Formula Ford.
Yeah.
Formula Ford started off in 1969, 1970, and I got my first sponsorship deal in 1974. Yep. In 1977, I was able to get a sponsorship deal for that category where one man and his dog used to go and watch, being perfectly blunt about it. Mm-hmm. But we introduced a way there with a company called SodaStream. And to give you encouragement, I was a very average racing driver. I midfield in Formula Ford.
Yeah.
Budget in those days, £12,500 to do a full national season of 90 races. Yeah. And I walked away with a check for £27,500 from a company called SodaStream because I showed them how they could sell more consumables such as concentrate, fizzy bottles, and all the things that you need to do to run a SodaStream drink, set up a SodaStream drink. And I showed them how that could be done through motor racing. And in fact, they said, well, it's £12,500. And then I said, well, I can help you by actually being there on the spot to talk to people when they come into departmental stores, pass them over to your promotional person, sell machines and the like. And I walked away with 27,000. It can be done.
Yeah.
And I love nothing better, Enzo, than working with youngsters like this young guy in America. Really, really grabs it.
Yeah.
And he said, everyone else is out there spending money going testing and testing and testing or simulator work. He said, I'm going to spend my money on getting the money to be able to do the thing properly.
Oh man, that's perfect. I like this kid, whoever it is.
He's bright. He's going to go places. He really is.
And that's what it takes. That's what it takes. It's not just being fancy in the car. It really does take you to be a special person. And you mentioned, I wrote it down so we didn't forget, proposals. So if someone comes to you day one, I need a proposal. Can you help me? What's your answer?
I don't send out sponsorship proposal. I never have done. Yeah. Because if you send out a proposal and the word proposal is on it, it begs the question, yes, I'm interested, or no, I'm not. Mm-hmm. You're not ready to ask that question by just sending it out. Yes, you're going to be asked to send them something very often in there, put something in the post and let me have a look. What you need to do is to send out a prospectus that goes back to what I talked about listing capabilities. You need to have a prospectus that can go to a company and show all the things you can possibly think of it can help with, not in great detail, but a prospectus that will give you the potential to say, let's talk about some of these, identify those capabilities that are important to you, and then let me come back with a bespoke proposal. That is a proposal based on the things, whether it might be just 3 or 4 things that you said are important, and let's scrap the rest. But if brand awareness is not important to you, why pay for it? Yeah. And that's how you work it. So proposals to me you cannot send a proposal till you've had a meeting.
It's going up to somebody, asking them out for a date just straight away. Never met you before. Do you fancy going on a date? It's like, get away from me, you freak.
Yeah. Well, I've never had that pleasure, unfortunately. I never even got to the first step. But no, really, it's and listen to people who and learn from history. The deals that I'm doing today, and I'm in the process of doing one right now. Mm-hmm. Very not very different to what I did 20, 30 years ago, because it came down to helping the company in a measured, sustainable way sell more products.
I love it. That's great. I think you've given a lot of value there. And yeah, like I say, everybody, I don't know what you charge, but the mentorship of this would be perfect. So I really do recommend that you contact Brian Sims and say, I need a bit of help and I'm willing to work my tail off for it. Because you still have to put in the work, obviously, as a driver. You're the engine that's driving it. But to have you in the team would be amazing, mate. But is there anything you want to leave us with? Anything that's important that you wanted to cover that we didn't?
I think really the other thing I haven't mentioned, you've got to have and develop a strategy. You wouldn't go, it's like anything in sport. If, my football team, Wolverhampton Wanderers, are playing West Ham United. Yeah. The manager will sit down and they will say, right, let's look at the strengths and the weaknesses of West Ham United and let's play and design our game to that, maybe. Yeah. You've got to have a strategy. It's no good just going out like a bull in a china shop and, that company looks like it could be a sponsor, because the managing director drives a Ferrari, so he obviously likes motor racing and he can afford it. Yeah. That's how so many people make their decisions. Absolutely. Build a strategy. Include research, do some research on your local market, go and talk to your local chamber of commerce, go and talk to your local newspaper, get known, get your name out there. Yeah. Build a strategy. Don't just sort of play at it. And if any of you want help, I'll give Enzo's got my contact details. I'd be delighted to hear. Yeah. I don't charge a fortune. No,
that's what I like about it. You're like me, you just want to contribute.
Yeah, and remember, whatever you're paying, you're not buying for an hour of my time, you're buying 45 years of experience.
So true. And just you talking about a strategy, I didn't even realize it when I was started out, because I was the kid who came from a council estate, just lived a bum lifestyle. I was that one at the McDonald's in a Fiesta. hanging around doing nothing, wanting to be a race driver. And even then, people don't talk about this, but your friends, if you say you want to be a race driver, they take the mick because you want to be better than them. So I was that kind of kid. I thought, no, screw this. I'm going to go for it. Spent a few years not knowing how to get sponsors, selling it the wrong way, like you say, with a Word document that was the proposal. It was terrible if I think about what it looked like. But eventually I thought, right, I just want to choose a championship I can possibly afford, even though I can't afford it as a person, but it's more manageable. And it was Formula Ford, like yourself. I did the wrong thing. I got a bank loan as well, just to help buy a car, but still I paid it off luckily because the car was worth a little bit more the second year. But I went to the local tire exhaust company.
Yeah.
And I said to them, what's each customer worth? Because I heard that somewhere. If they can put a value, a pound sign, a dollar sign to what each customer is worth. In other words, they spend £200 each time they come in. They come in at an average of 10 times, should we say? Some are less, some are more. So £2,000 is each client, right? If each one's worth £2,000, and I can bring 5, surely they can pay me X. And I'm going to make sure I do that. And I did. I sent all my friends, my family. I started to shop there, which is obviously not the best sense in money if you're spending and they're giving you back. But still, it was like, okay, I'm going to put them in the local media because they've only got one shop. They don't care. And every single race weekend, they obviously had an article that the newspaper would let me write, so I could make it sound amazing how finishing 10th was the best thing in the world. But at the bottom, it was sponsored. Thank you for the sponsors, and it would say they're Tire and Exhaust Company and everyone else, and they're over the moon. And all they did was supply me with the tires, the money to buy the tires, the Avons back then, and exhaust, anything that was related to their company. So what would that be? Probably £6,000 or something. But I gave them more than that in exposure in the local community and customers. And obviously the second year, it was like, we want to go again. So I think you're right. And I didn't even realize I was doing it at the time, but it's just, if you give them a deal or an offer that's a no-brainer and you try and create that, couple it with what they're actually after as well, it's going to be a lot easier to sell, isn't it?
I'll just say one final thing. When many years later, I was racing professionally in South Africa for Mercedes in touring cars. And I went to and when I retired from that, I wanted to set up my own racing school.
Yeah.
And I went to one of the big cigarette companies, and I thought, if I can get them on board, but they were in Formula One, that will pull in a lot of people to this racing school at the Grand Prix circuit in South Africa.
Yeah.
And they said, we haven't got any budget. And I remember saying, okay, have you got a lot of T-shirts with your brand on and a lot of caps? Yes. Okay. Could you somehow find, in your expenses, the possibility of an air ticket to England? And the guy said, well, I haven't got any budget. I said, well, could you not somehow? He said, why? I said, and can you not get a test day for a young racing driver with your sponsored Formula? It was Formula Ford 2000 at that time. And on the back of that, eventually he said, okay, yeah, these things don't cost us money. Okay, we'll do that. On the back of that, I went and got one of the biggest ever sponsorship deals I'd done from one of the big windscreen companies, because they said, crack it, if that company's on board, we want to be a part of it, because their PR people will be milking it.
Oh, wow.
And you've got to think sometimes that you mustn't be greedy.
Yeah.
Do a deal for virtually nothing if it can give you something that will help you get a big deal from somebody else.
Yeah, there's a lot of white space on a race car normally, and people are like, well, that space is worth 20 grand. I'm like, yeah, but it's empty. There's something you can do to build up relations or profile for next year. You idiot.
You'll be very flexible and not greedy.
Yeah. Well, amazing talk, my friend. Thank you very much. It's one of the most valuable guests we've got, because it is the biggest pain in our lives, sponsorship. So thank you so much for coming along, my friend.
No, well, it's always a pleasure. And seriously, if you just want to chat, please give me a bell, and let's see what we can do to help.
Brilliant. Thanks, Brian.
I love you talking to you.
Brilliant. Boom. There you go. Finished.
All
That's
done?
so good, mate. It's so good.